GEdwardGriffin, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve. Embark on a captivating exploration of The Creature from Jekyll Island, where you'll discover the secrets behind the inception of the Federal Reserve and the clandestine maneuvers that shaped its formation. Delve into this book's analysis of the motives for creating a central banking system, the impact it has had on society, and the well-laid schemes of the powerful individuals involved in its operation. With eye-opening revelations about the Fed's role in economic booms and busts, monetary policies, and more, prepare to question everything you know about the central banking system and its influence on global events.
The Secretive Plot. In 1910, 6 men with immense wealth, including a senator, assistant secretary of the U.S. Treasury, and 4 bankers, secretly met on Jekyll Island to discuss the creation of a central bank. The group aimed to control competition from newer banks, gain the ability to create money out of nothing, and have control over the reserves of all banks. They intended to transfer the losses of reckless banks to taxpayers while convincing Congress that their motive was to protect the public. This meeting resulted in the formation of the Federal Reserve System. The dark side of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve System, established in 1913, is a misnomer that operates against public interest, destabilizes the economy, generates inflation, and encourages war. This legal private monopoly of money supply is a supreme instrument of usury that hurts the poor, middle class, and workers. Moreover, the Fed manipulates the money supply and works against natural laws of supply and demand, leading to boom and bust economic cycles. The Fed also makes possible global organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations, all precursors of a one-world government that supports dictatorships and socialist states. The threat of socialism. America is facing an attack from those seeking to implement a socialist order. Government programs and banking schemes were created during the Great Depression as a result of government paternalism. The Bretton Woods Conference of 1944 brought together Fabian socialists and communists to establish a world order with a world currency, central bank, and control over all nations' economies. The Federal Reserve is considered one of America's most dangerous creatures by some. President John F. Kennedy was a strong proponent of global socialism, advocating for wealth redistribution from the richest to the poorest. The Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, serves as a launchpad for elite individuals who wish to control the U.S. government, banks, universities, and media. The CFR advocates for monetary system convergence through institutions such as the IMF and World Bank, trade agreements like NAFTA, and the inclusion of China and Russia in global institutions. According to the book, Communism's Fall in the 20th Century was a great deception in which communist leaders ceded social freedoms to their citizens to retain control and appease the West, allowing socialist nations to receive significant investment capital. Banking and military conquests. The Bank of England was created in 1694 to help finance Britain's military pursuits. In the 19th century, the Rothschild family played a significant role in financing governments in Europe and dictating to political leaders. Napoleon Bonaparte refused to borrow from the financiers and established his bank to finance his military campaigns. As bankers financed various military conquests, both winners and losers became indebted to financiers in Europe and America, notably J.P. Morgan. During World War I, the House of Morgan became a purchasing and shipping agent for war materials. Morgan-controlled media trumpeted for U.S. intervention, and Wall Street financed the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Throughout the 20th century, leaders advocating social democratic values came from factions such as the American Round Table, whose offshoot, the CFR, is the most powerful group in America today. American monetary history. The American monetary system has a tumultuous past, with conflicting views among the Founding Fathers over debt and monetary management. While the U.S. Constitution prohibits states from issuing paper currency, the federal government has the right to coin money or assign it a value based on extrinsic commodities like gold and silver. The financial turmoil of the early 19th century eventually led to the American Civil War, and abolishing slavery became an afterthought in the North's pursuit of war. The symbiotic relationship between the North and South came under pressure from European competitors who threatened the North's share of Southern business, and the South rebelled against Northern protectionist laws. The Knights of the Golden Circle commissioned John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated President Abraham Lincoln. The book explores how the present-day challenges faced by the savings and loan industry have roots that can be traced back to the Great Depression of the 1930s. The secret birth of the Federal Reserve. In the early 1900s, a group of powerful men created a plan to establish a U.S. central bank without alerting the public to the country's disastrous past with central banking. The group met at Jekyll Island in 1910, where they crafted a strategy for legislation that appeared to strengthen the economy while secretly safeguarding the bankers' monopoly and politicians' power. To make the entity appear legitimate, they included "federal" in its name. They successfully convinced Americans that the Wall Street bankers opposed the plan, and the Federal Reserve Act took effect in 1913. By the end of the 1920s, the Fed had pumped a significant amount of money into the economy, aiding Great Britain in financing their socialist programs, ultimately causing the market to collapse in 1929. The rich investors who were warned by American and British central bankers to sell their shares before the market crash benefited from the Federal Reserve's actions. Environmentalism as a tool for world government. In 1966, a think tank outlined a strategy to maintain control over populations through the instigation of a new threat post-war. The report argued that global pollution was the perfect menace, and when it threatens the survival of the planet, the fear it generates would keep citizens pliable in service to environmental concerns to the detriment of their other bureaucratic issues. The report indicated that its leaders had an entirely different agenda: world government. It warned that if the world reached a stage of globalization and peace, governments would need to incite fear and use propaganda to keep people committed to their rulers. The solution to the problem of global pollution, as put forward in the report, was world government. To prevent this, the first step is to abolish the Fed and revert to gold or silver-backed currency. A solid bank should be chosen for saving, and investments should be spread. People should also educate others about the dangers of one world government if we are to avoid becoming subservient eternal lords to the new world power.
As we reach the end of The Creature from Jekyll Island, it is clear that the Federal Reserve, created amidst scheming and secrecy in 1910, has served the interests of powerful bankers and politicians at the expense of the public. Its contributions to economic instability, wars, and the undermining of the nation's currency system are undeniable. The call to action is clear: educate others about the dangers of central banking and one world government. Seek monetary policies based on gold or silver-backed currencies, and work towards dismantling the federal. It is time for 1,000,000 crusaders with determination and courage to slay the creature and put an end to its reign over our economy and society.